Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Alec Reed. This is my channel Alec Reads, and today we're reading Wheelchair Accessible on Wattpad. We are reading part 6 today. Again, I am going to ask a quick question in the beginning of this video, talking about donations, simply because I don't want to have to put a price on content. I don't want to have people pay for content that just doesn't sit right with me. So I wanted to know whether you guys would be willing to donate, because I do need to purchase new things for the channel, like microphones. A new computer is very much necessary, new equipment in general, and then also I need a new wheelchair. Mine is broken, and I need it for my everyday life. But anyway, like, subscribe, comment down below, whether it's answering my questions, saying hello, or leaving recommendations. I respond to all of them, so make sure that you go and look back on your comments, because there is a chance that I might leave questions on your comments. So just make sure that you're checking those. I also have an email that is connected to my channel. It's readsalec@gmail.com, so go check that out. Anyway, let's jump right into the video. Chapter 6. By now, I'm sure it's pretty obvious that I wasn't winning any popularity contests. I definitely wasn't the most liked person at school, and would, in fact, be willing to bet that I was one of the least liked people in all of Jefferson High. Nobody wanted me around. They were happier once I was gone. I was the Monday of people, and I was a fool to think that combining the Monday of people with the actual day of the week could possibly go well. After the intense and dramatic conclusion that Ryder and I's basketball game on Saturday, which Shauna had very happily declared I was the loser of, the three of us had walked over to the nearby gas station, and I had bought a round of slushies. Shauna and Ryder had gotten along like two peas in a pod, joking and sharing stories. Shauna didn't seem to care that Ryder was so much younger. She happily listened to him asked him questions, and seemed to genuinely enjoy hanging out with him. Ryder had talked about her the whole walk home. Since the actual being friends with Shauna thing had gone pretty well, I didn't push back when she suggested that we meet at one of the local coffee places after school to hang out. But those plans left my mind the moment I walked out of school to find Will and the rest of his minions from the football team standing outside waiting for me. I won't get into the nitty-gritty details, but I'm sure you can put two and two together. Will didn't like my attitude and thought I needed to be put in my place. The other guys did whatever he did, and I left school with some lovely new colors on my body. Nobody got caught or anything, which was probably the only positive out of the situation, because I didn't need the tension, or worse, on top of everything else. More than anything, I was annoyed. It was annoying. I hated that these guys wouldn't leave me alone. It didn't matter how many good swings I got in, they always outnumbered me and took me out. My phone buzzed, insanely in my pocket. I leaned against one of the fences next to the school, wiping the blood off my lip and covering my bad eye so that I could see the screen of my phone. Shauna, we're still meeting at the Bean, all right? Are you just running late? Shauna, don't stand me up, Mark. I'll be crushed. Shauna, not that I'm desperate or anything. Shauna, but people might think I'm a loser if I'm sitting here all by myself all night. I sighed and glanced at the time. I was already over half an hour late, and I knew I still needed to get some ice on my face, otherwise this was going to look even worse tomorrow. It felt rude to bail on Shauna, but then again, I hadn't known her for so long, so how crushed could she be? Mark, something came up, not coming. Sorry. Shauna, what? What happened? Shauna, I bought you a donut. Mark, can I get a rain check? Shauna, only because you bought me a slushie. Tucking my phone back in my pocket, I made my way home, keeping my head down to avoid attracting unnecessary attention. But as soon as I got home, there was no hiding it. What happened to your face? My grandma gasped the moment she stepped out of the living room to greet me. Almost instantly, her bottom lip was trembling. Nothing, don't worry about it, I mumbled, pushing past her towards the kitchen, tilting my face so she didn't see the full blunt of it. Her slippered footsteps padded quickly across the floor. Don't tell me that's nothing, Mark, she said, her voice tight. She stepped in front of me, blocking me from any further. This is the 4th time in the last 2 months. I thought you weren't going to fight anymore. I rubbed my head, wincing when I hit a sore spot. I'm sorry. Can I just get an ice pack? You need to learn to control yourself. What about those breathing exercises we talked about? Yeah, I'm sorry. Can I just get an ice pack? Why didn't you tell me? What's going on? Maybe I can go to the school and get this sorted out. No, Grandma, I groaned, my voice rising in frustration. Just leave it alone. All I need is a freaking ice pack, okay? Her eyes lowered, but she nodded, disappearing into the kitchen. There was some shuffling, and then she reappeared with an ice pack wrapped in a towel. She stepped up to me and lifted my chin, forcing me to look at her gentle, wrinkly face that I had grown up knowing. Although my grandparents had never lived very close to us, they had always made an effort to visit. As a kid, I knew that whenever there was something I couldn't tell my parents, Grandma and Grandpa came in clutch, always understanding some kind of candy we weren't allowed to have at home. I knew they wanted what's best for me, and I knew that seeing me in this state, both physically and emotionally, was hard for them. But this living situation was only temporary. Soon my parents would be back home, and then she wouldn't have to worry about me anymore, having to look after Ryder, and I, for the past month, has probably added to her graying hair. 15 minutes on, 15 minutes off. She reminded me, slowly handing me the ice pack. Thank you, I said, quietly, leaning down to give her a light peck on the cheek before disappearing into my room before she could ask any questions. I tossed myself onto my bed and pressed the ice pack to my face, closing my eyes. I tried to clear my mind and force myself to drift off to sleep. It had been my number one means of escape since school year had started and everything went down. If I slept, I didn't have to worry about who was looking at me or whispering about me. If I slept, that meant the days disappeared faster. If I slept, I didn't have to feel anymore. There was a light tapping against my door, and I ignored it until I heard a voice that followed it. Mark? I kept my eyes closed in case I needed to pretend to be asleep again. Are you okay? Ryder asked quietly. Yeah, I'm good, buddy. Did you get punched? I heard Grandma on the phone telling Grandpa you got in a fight. I held back a sigh. Yeah. Ryder was quiet for a moment. Did you punch him back? I smiled a little, but flinched as it pulled at the swollen skin of my lip. A couple times. Good. He paused in the doorway a little longer. I thought you were going to see Shauna today. I was. You don't want her to find out you were fighting, he guessed. Yeah, I guess. Plus, I don't think she'd want to see my shiner and swollen face while she's trying to eat. I bet she'd like it, Reiner said with a small laugh. Maybe she'd let you borrow some makeup. She probably would. I smiled a little. Ryder was quiet for another moment. Hope you feel better. Thanks, buddy. I heard the door shut with a click, and then quiet. The room was silent except for my thoughts bouncing around in my head like a never-ending bouncing ball, hitting wall to wall, back and forth. They pounded on the walls, echoing in my head, never stopping. This is why I wanted to sleep. As soon as I was alone, the thoughts started bouncing and didn't quit. They never stopped moving, and yet they never got me anywhere. You'd think, after spending so much time thinking in circles, that you'd have to come up with something useful by now. Maybe a magical solution that would make everything disappear, maybe a new flavor of ice cream or something at least made the terrible silence worth it. I picked up my phone to check the time and realized I had a bunch of messages from Shauna. Shauna. This donut is so good. Shauna. Dude, that guy from the park is here. Shauna. You know, the one that has a man crush on you? Shauna. I'm currently hiding behind the menu, spying on them. Stay posted. Shauna. Is every guy at your school as muscly as you? Because I may consider transferring. Shauna. Never mind, they sound like jerks. They're all laughing about beating some guy up today. Shauna. Mark? Where are you? What happened? Shauna. Answer me. Shauna. I'm getting worried. Shauna. Are you okay? Shauna. Please call me when you get this. Feeling bad, I quickly sent her back a message that everything was all right and I'd talk to her later. I didn't want to get into everything right now. It was embarrassing enough that she'd figured out what had happened, especially hearing it from the guys who did it. Oh, I need sleep. I turned my phone off and settled against my pillow, squeezing my eyes shut, ignoring the strain that it put on my swollen eye. Maybe the pain would make my brain want to turn off faster. It was kind of nice to have someone checking on me, though someone that cared enough to spam text you when they thought something was wrong. I hadn't had that for a long time. Or maybe ever. It hadn't been that long since we met, but somehow Shauna was managing to grow on me. That little bugger. When I woke up again, the light of the sun had now gone. The ice pack was just a soft, lukewarm bag on my face. I took a few minutes just to stare up at the dark ceiling of my room. It took some time, but I soon realized that the dark thoughts that plagued my mind made each time before I fell asleep that taunted me to go some places I knew I shouldn't, hadn't been present. Even though my face throbbed and my knuckles were bruised for the first time in a long time, I realized things were going to be okay. Chapter 7. Shauna. Marcus Richard Harrison. The third answer your dang phone. Shauna, I'm literally going to kill you. Shauna. Please tell me those guys weren't talking about you. Shauna. If you don't reply, I'm assuming that I'm right. Shauna. I'm right, aren't I? Shauna. I'm considering withholding my friendship until you reply to me. Shauna. Prepare to be punched in the face next time I see you. Mark. Please don't punch me in the face. Shauna. He lives! Shauna. But not for long because I'm going to murder you. Mark. Sorry. Shauna. Where are you? I'm coming with my chainsaw. Shauna. Seriously, what happened? Mark. Do you want to meet at the Bean today? Shauna. When? Mark. Lunch. Shauna. Deal. Meet you there with 3 vats of poison. Shauna. And a plastic fork. Mark. Goodbye. Shauna. Is that a yes? I pushed the door open to the Bean, one of the popular coffee shops in town, and scanned the room, looking for the familiar brunette that I had been blowing up my phone. She wasn't there yet, so I headed for the back of the shop where the booths were, until I thought and stopped for a second, and I switched directions to one of the little tables by the window. I pulled one of the chairs out and added it to another table, leaving a larger space opposite from where I sat down, and pulled my phone out so I could look less awkward. The aroma of brewing beans brought me back to when I would hang out here with my friends after school. We'd sit here in the back booths, freshly showered after finishing practice. There'd be a girl on my side, and we'd be talking about the latest gossip that was always going around school. That seemed like a lifetime ago. After scrolling aimlessly through some news website, I'd gotten rid of my social media over a month ago. I glanced at the time. Part of me thought Shauna wasn't going to show up, pay back for me bailing on her yesterday. But then I heard the jingle of the door opening. I looked up to see an older guy holding the door open for Shauna as she rolled her wheelchair through. She searched the room as I had, and then spotted me and smiled brightly. Seeing her bright eyes, I reminded myself that Shauna wasn't like my other friends. Shauna wouldn't act out of pettiness or spite. There was something about her that was just genuinely kind. Ignoring the stares of the other customers, she rolled her way over and parked herself into the spot I created. Thanks for waiting. Dude. I peeked over, finally looking at her properly. She was staring back, her always present smile nowhere to be found. Dude, I repeated lightly, unable to keep eye contact. Your face! I sighed heavily. Yeah, I know. Can I? She pushed herself closer, her chair bumping into my knees as she reached for my face. Gently, she held my chin and turned it so that she could get a better look, and sucked in a breath. Yowza. That bad? I muttered. Honestly, I hadn't bothered to look. She considered this for a moment, letting her hands fall away from my face. No, not that bad. Dark purple is kind of your color. You can pull it off. I laughed through my nose, then shoved the menu towards her as she leaned back in her chair. I'm starving. Order fast. I already know what I want, she said simply, closing the menu. I had a lot of time to decide yesterday. Sorry about that. I grimaced, my eyes following a dog walker passing by the window. I didn't feel up to coming. I get it. She nodded. The waitress came over and took our food and drink orders, and then she was gone again. So, what happened? Or would you rather not talk about it? Old grudges, I told her with a shrug. Dumb decisions coming back to bite me, and all that. She hummed, giving me the chance to add anything. When it became clear I wasn't going to, she said, Well, I'm glad you're okay. I forced a smile. Thanks. It was quite a long time, and I felt the sudden urge to fill the silence. It was so unlike me that even the idea confused me. Maybe it had something to do with Shauna and the way those eyes kept flickering back to me, waiting for something and nothing at the same time. She hadn't pushed me to share more, but it was like she knew what I was feeling without me having to say it. It was like all these thoughts and emotions were desperately wanting to be heard by someone, and Shauna was the magnet drawing them out. I just want it to be over. The words were falling out of my lips before I could stop them. I wish I was a different person, that Mark Harris didn't have to exist. My pulse suddenly quickened and I cleared my throat. I mean, it's just like things kind of suck sometimes. It's whatever. It's not just whatever. It's a valid way to feel, she said softly, picking up her napkin to fiddle with its corners. But I don't know. I don't see a problem with who you are. You just gotta learn to love the person you live with every day, black eyes and all. Her lips tugged into a gentle smile as I looked at her while my fingers drummed against the tabletop. It's easy to say when you're you, Paraplegic? No, I mean, like, you're so confident and stuff. Everybody likes you. Random ice cream vendor guys and people you've barely met. You're nice. You stand out. You're somebody, even total strangers. You add something to the world, you know? Shauna leaned forward, resting her chin on her hands, watching me carefully as I spoke. You add something to the world. What? Some softball tackles. A few bloody knuckles. Some more gossip for the bored kids at school. I'm nothing. I'm just some guy that's there. I shook my head. And that's fine. It's whatever. I don't need some A-list celebrity. I let the sentence trail off because I wasn't exactly sure how to finish it. You know, I'm not as great as you make me sound. I'm nothing special. You put me in a crowd of wheelchairs and you couldn't pick me out either. I didn't think that was true. Her smile could stand out in a crowd, but I didn't argue. I just asked, have you ever been in a crowd of wheelchairs? Yeah, at a wheelchair convention. There was a tiny smirk playing on her lips as she said this, and she took a sip of her water to hide it. I stared at her flatly. You are unbelievable. Her head fell back as she started to laugh. Okay, that's fake, but, you know, you're not as tough as you think. And how would you know that? Because, she said, and watched with those clear eyes long enough to make me want to look away. Your only friend is a girl in a wheelchair. And she rolled away. I stared after her, opening my mouth to protest, wanting her to be wrong, for me to have something to say back. But I had nothing. She was right. Suddenly, she came back to the table. That was dramatic. She laughed. My apologies. I rolled my eyes at her antics, but was glad we didn't have to be overly serious about everything. The waitress was back with our food, and I eagerly dove into my burger, taking a huge bite. I'm going to prove it to you, Shauna said, blowing carefully on her spoonful of soup. Prove what? That you add something to this world, she said confidently. I knew my expression looked skeptical, but I also knew better than to try and argue with her about something. She could think whatever she wanted. All I wanted to think about right now was this saucy burger in my hands. We were halfway through our meal, just talking about random things that came up. Shauna's school, the weather, some plot twists in whatever show she was watching, when Shauna sat straight up. Hey, I have an idea. Well, I'm not going to tell you. I want to surprise you. But do you want to hang out this weekend? I shrugged. Okay. Don't sound too excited. Scoffing, I forced my mouth into the brightest smile I could physically make. Wow, that sounds great, Shauna. There's literally nothing else I'd rather be doing. She pressed her lips together to hide her smile. Yeah, that's freaky. Go back to being broody. I'm not brooding. What the heck? Oh, and bring your brother with you. What are we doing? I can't tell you, she insisted. But it's going to be fun. My eyes narrowed. No crazy stuff, right? Ryder's only 10. Dude, I'm in a wheelchair. How crazy do you think I can get? I raised one eyebrow at her. If I remember correctly, you were doing stunts on a hill, ran me over, and nearly died the first day I met you. That was years ago. That was like 2 weeks ago. The past is the past, buddy. Let it go. We talked a bit longer before we ran out of time and both of us had to get back to school. I offered to walk her back, but she waved me off, saying her school was close and she could get there, no problem. I felt kind of guilty making her wheel herself around so much, but Shauna reassured me that she was totally ripped, and I was only making her stronger and harder to defeat. I drove back to school, and halfway there I realized there was a small smile on my face, and I realized that I like hanging out with Shauna. I like having a friend for once. And I realized that I was really looking forward to this weekend. Alright, everyone, that is the end of today's episode. I really hope that you guys enjoyed. The next part we will be reading is chapter 8. Come back next time for that. Like, subscribe, and comment down below, and I will see you in the next video. Good morning, good afternoon, and good night. Goodbye, ladies, gentlemen, and everybody in between, and I will see you in the next video. Bye, friends.